So, welcome. This is Josh and his fiancée, Amy. Now, I knew Josh back in the day in a former life when I think I used to help Josh skiing. He was in the craziest ski group I think I've ever had. So, I've known Josh for a little while. But, Josh, you work in a kind of law firm in London, and Amy does too. So, tell me about what's happened.
Vicky got in touch with me and said, would I like to be part of this YouTube series? And I mentioned it to Amy, who's my fiance, and Amy said, oh, that's nice. Where does your friend teach? And I said, oh, in Hereford Sixth Form College, which Amy's ears pricked up and she went, oh, I used to go to Hereford Sixth Form College, and got very excited.
I did get very excited.
I thought it would be rude to get Amy to come and be on the video.
Crazy small world. So, Amy, tell us, when were you at Sixth Form College, and tell us a little bit about that.
So I was at Hereford Sixth Form, when was it? So it would have been 2012 to 2014. And before that, I went to Wigmore High School, so a bit more out in the sticks, and then kind of came into the city for Sixth Form. And I studied law, philosophy and ethics, government and politics, and maths. And yeah, had a great couple of years. And I'm always just very excited when I meet people or hear about people that went to Hereford that weren't originally from Hereford, because I feel like it is a bit of a small bubble. So yeah, when Josh mentioned that he had a friend who's working there now, I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, that's so exciting. I love the fact that this is just very serendipitous. This is destined to be. So for the first time on the YouTube channel, we decided to interview two people, which is fantastic. So really exciting. So tell us about where you both work now.
Yeah, so we both work for a solicitors firm in London, and we both actually work in the same or a similar department. So we both do dispute resolution, which is a sort of fancy way of saying that we help either defend people who are being sued, or we help our clients sue other people for money.
Normally companies, to be fair.
Normally companies. Yeah, the sort of firm we work for tends to work for big companies such as Tesco and Virgin, Sky,
BP,
lots
of big companies.
We've both recently qualified. We both qualified as solicitors in September, and before that we did 2 years training. So we've been here about 3 years with the firm.
To get to where we are now, we did a 2-year training course, and that in itself is really, really varied, because it's over 2 years, but split into 4 6-month seats, and you basically sit in different departments within the firm, because it's such a big business and it's got so many different areas. So like Josh said, we're now in disputes, but we also did a seat in real estate, so that was very different to what we do now. That was, working on the contracts for arranging rents and things like that for both retail and commercial clients and things like that. And then I also did a seat in competition law, so that was really exciting, doing a lot of stuff, especially around Brexit, because competition law all comes through the EU. So that was quite an exciting time to be there. So yeah, the training to get to being a qualified solicitor is super varied, because you do have that like broad range of experience. And then in terms of like our day-to-day tasks that we do now, Josh is more involved in like one bigger matter at the moment, whereas I'm doing like smaller matters, but lots of them. So I'd say at the moment, maybe my workload is a bit more varied than yours, but I think the nature of disputes is that they can go on for a really long time, especially if it ends up going to litigation, so through the courts, that can take years. Whereas what I do in the insurance disputes team is a lot more of the like preliminary advice for clients, which means that it's often resolved quicker because they haven't actually gone down the legal proceedings route.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I hadn't also thought about the fact that you go through so many different training stages. And I think that's really useful to hear, because again, you think, oh, well, I'm interested in law, I'd like to go and study the law. But actually to know that you do have that varied kind of progression sounds really interesting. And also, again, that those smaller tasks actually bring more variety. And then how about your situation, Josh? So you've got a kind of single bigger case?
Yeah, so I do most of my work for the post office, who you might have read in the newspapers are having lots and lots of troubles at the moment with their IT system. So I'm working on that, and that's obviously a very different experience for me, because rather than having lots of different clients and lots of different matters, I'd spend pretty much all my time sort of working on this ongoing matter. And the fact that, you know, every morning you wake up and you can read about it in the news, that makes it quite exciting, but also gives it a sense that what I'm doing has a bit more sort of consequences. So I feel like I want to get it right, and I know that obviously there's real people's lives at stake and real people's experiences. So that's been a sort of sort of trial by fire for me in the last few months. In terms of what I do day to day, I think it is incredibly varied, and I think this isn't always the case in law. And I think for anyone who's thinking of going into law, like, it is a very varied profession. So you can find that the sort of term lawyer actually can encompass a sort of completely different jobs. So for us, I think working in the City of London, in the sort of law firm that we work in, our job is quite varied just by the nature of our clients. So for some law firms, they will have the same clients coming to them over and over again. So for example, if they're doing personal injury claims, they'll have one person with a broken leg, they'll have another person with a broken leg, they'll have another person with a broken leg, and they'll do, their specialism will be maximizing the claim for that person. Whereas for us, like, our clients are different every time. So once I'm finished with the post office, I might well have an oil and gas company come with a dispute, or I might have an airline come with a dispute. And, you know, for example, Amy at the moment is doing a big dispute where there's people getting very upset over whether a storm caused some damage to some rocks that they own or not. So you suddenly become an expert on rocks and storm defenses. And before I was doing this, I was doing a big dispute between a company who developed a patent for how to transport liquid natural gas, and they were arguing that someone else had stolen that. So suddenly, within months, I became an expert on liquid natural gas and all the different canisters that you can store it in. And
we won't bore you with that. All with the storm issues and the rocks. We won't go into it.
Sounds amazing, though. I mean, that's kind of like become a master of many things.
It definitely is that.
Lots of dinner party conversations there. So how much do you know about natural gas transportation?
So, funnily enough, we actually went to a Thanksgiving dinner a couple of years ago now, didn't we?
Yeah.
And there were some people there that we hadn't met before, and one of them was an engineer or something like that, and that was literally like her specific profession, and everyone else at the table was just sat there thinking, what on earth are these two people talking about? And Josh loved the fact that he could pull out all these random facts,
talking about floating platforms and sort of liquid natural gas, compressed natural gas canisters. And
we said we wouldn't go into
she was loving it.
So it sounds like really varied work, and also there are lots of different opportunities in the kind of legal field to go into, but also great dinner party conversation starters, so very important. Now tell us, how did you get to this stage though? So what did you both do before you went into your firm and this particular career? So tell us about your degrees. Let's go back a stage to that.
I think this can be quite interesting because we actually came from very different paths. So I think Amy is very much decided that she wanted to study law very early on. I mean, you said you did it for A level, didn't you?
Yeah, exactly. So I think for me, coming out of secondary school, going into A levels, like, I already definitely had a good idea that law was something that I'd be interested in. Not really for any reason, like I didn't know any lawyers. I think I just thought I liked talking a lot and I liked arguing. And actually, definitely at that stage, I think I thought I would be what I now know to be a barrister. But at the time, it sounds silly, but I didn't really know that there was a difference between a solicitor and a barrister. But yeah, it was only really through doing that at A level and then applying to do law at university. And again, I didn't really consider doing anything else because I thought, well, I want to be a lawyer, so I should study law. And again, Josh's testament to the fact that actually that's not true. Like, you can study whatever you want and still end up going into law if you want to. So I think that is, not that I regret doing a law degree, but I definitely think it's really good to know that if you're not sure yet and you want, if there's something else that you really enjoy, like, you can do that. So yeah, I did the really, like, I don't know, traditional, predictable lawyer route, which was law at A level and then law at university. And then I went straight from that to my training contract. So most unis are really, really good. Once you get there's loads of like career events and things like that, and they kind of come to you, which is amazing, and all the different firms approach you, and there's so many opportunities to go and look at and speak to different people that work in different kind of law firms. So that's kind of how I found out about becoming a solicitor in the city. And then I did some work experience here at Herbert Smith Freehills in my second year, and then that led to a job offer. So I just kind of went straight through from A-level degree to working.
Amazing, gosh. And that is really interesting to kind of hear that route as well, which is really exciting. And so Josh, yours was different. How was yours different?
Yeah, well, so I barely knew how to spell law until at least post-university. So I didn't study law at A-level. I didn't study at university either.
What did you do at A-level?
So I did, I actually didn't really know kind of what I was interested in, but I knew I was good at humanities. So I did philosophy, history, I also did psychology, and then I did drama as well. So those were my 4 subjects. I then studied history at university, and at that point, I still had no idea what I wanted to do. Enjoyed my history degree, left university, and then I actually went and worked for a restaurant chain for a year, or actually almost 2 years. And during that time, I sort of thought about various different careers. I sought advice from people. I did some work experience in various places and decided at that point that maybe I wanted to be a lawyer. So I then did the same as Amy, did some work experience. And the way that law firms hire is they actually hire you before you then do your postgraduate exams. So they hire you usually 2 years before you start. So I got an offer from them to be hired, and then went off, and unlike Amy, who's done 3 years of a rigorous law degree, I did a 6-month crash course in law called the GDL, the Graduate Diploma in Law. And then I started on what's called the LPC, which is the mandatory exam that everyone has to do if you want to practice as a lawyer.
So that's where we joined up, doing the LPC at the same time.
And that's where I met Amy, who'd come straight from uni because she didn't have to do her crash course. And then we started at the firm. But yeah, I mean, for me, law was very much something that I came to later, and that's very typical. More than half of lawyers didn't actually even study law at university, and a lot of people come to law after doing another career or having done something else in London for a few years. They then decide they actually want to transition. So I'm definitely not atypical at the firm.
Yeah, fantastic. And that's really interesting that you've got 2 different routes. Final thing, if you were to give yourself, or if you were to give us an 18-year-old, 17 kind of year old advice, hints and tips, what kind of 2 hints and tips might you give? So
I think my first one would be just do your research. So I think if you're watching this video, you're already kind of in that category, but I think especially now there's just so much information out there, and especially if you're someone that doesn't know a lot of people in varied careers or people that have moved away from home and things like to do jobs other than whatever it might be back in Hereford. I really think the internet is such an amazing resource, and really just research just anything and everything about what you might be interested in, because I feel so silly that I didn't know that you could do a GDL and actually become a lawyer and not have done a law degree. So I think just definitely whatever you're thinking of doing, there's so many resources out there that you can tap into to try and really feel like you actually know what the decision is that you're making. So I think that would be my first tip.
Thank you.
Think about what do you love doing, what are your hobbies, what are the subjects that you enjoy, and then do them justice, and work hard at them. And I wish that I had worked harder at my music. I wish I'd worked harder at my A-levels, because actually those are the things that I've taken on. Like, I still love music, and I obviously reap the benefits of my academics every day, and actually I don't ever really worry about what my friends thought of me when I was 18 apart from the 3 or 4 that I'm still friends with. And so that would be my top tip for someone.
Thank you, that's really helpful. Well, thank you so much for your time, and it has been so fun and crazy to chat to both of you. What a small world. So thank you so much for your time.